Welcome to Session 5. In Session 5, we're going to continue our exploration of the interaction between a coil of wire and magnets. We're going to start with this device here. Let's take a look at some detail. Down here is a coil of wire, and inside is a magnet in the tube, and when the coil is energized, it repels the magnet. We have it oriented so it will repel rather than attract the magnet. Now, when the magnet comes down, it pushes down on a switch, and the switch turns the power on to the coil, and the coil shoots the magnet up. Now, while the magnet is up, there is no electricity going to the coil, and we're charging up this thing called a capacitor. It's one of the few devices that can actually store electrical energy as electrical energy. It stores it as static electric energy. And when the magnet drops down and pushes down on the switch, that capacitor shoots an intense amount of electricity into the coil of wire, shooting the magnet up. Let's do that again now that you know how it works. Now, this is a finicky little guy. He may stop at any minute. Later on in the series, we'll explain why these little lights are lighting up. There's coils of wire here, and as the magnet passes through the coil, it generates electricity, lighting up the little LEDs. Okay, so this was an example of a stationary coil moving a magnet. Similar to what we had in, I think, Session 4 and 3. However, instead of something rotating, we had it oscillating back and forth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to keep the magnet stationary, and we're going to see what the coil does. The coil is free to move. And let's do a close-up here. And so here's our U-shaped magnet. This is the south pole, and I've put this coil around the south pole. Remember this? It's just a coil of wire, and what it does is it multiplies the effect of the electricity. So I'm going to energize it, and let's see what the coil does. Whoops, I was supposed to catch that. All right. Okay. So that's the principle we're going to use. And for now, we'll set this aside and disconnect that. Okay. Now, this is a very crude model of a speaker. Something that we listen to sound. That's how all our audio equipment works, at least most of it. Here's a magnet. This outer part is a north pole in this case, and the center bolt here is sitting on a south pole, and it becomes a south pole. And up here we have a coil of wire, magnet wire, and it's attached to this plastic cone. And I'm going to turn the power on to the coil, and you'll see that it's moving. You turn it on, it comes up, turn it off, goes down. I have actually put a flexible little diaphragm underneath here so it can go up and down, and connected it to the output of a radio, And if you put your ear right up against it, you can actually hear sound. But we're not going to do that today. It's rather crude, and it's not really worth the time. But you can see what's happening. We have a coil of wire that's interacting with a magnetic field in a very controlled way. Let's take a look at an actual speaker. This is a friend of mine gave me these speakers. There used to be a diaphragm here, and it eventually deteriorated. That diaphragm holds this cone in a nice position so it's not flopping around like this. And there's another diaphragm down below, and I cut it. You can see that tan color material. That kept the bottom part stable. But I cut it so that we could open it up and see how this is built. So I'm going to zoom in on that little coil there. So you can see that's a coil of magnet wire. And also I want you to see that it's hollow. I can get my finger in there without my hand. Let's see, let's use this. I'll use this stick. You can see that it's hollow, okay? So it's a ring of magnet wire, and that magnet wire fits right into, let's get some light on it, fits in that slot. If it's not clear, I'm going to put that little piece of cardboard in there. That goes all the way around. So the ring of magnet wire goes into the slot. So here's a south pole, a north pole, so that slot has an intense magnetic field inward radially that this ring of magnet wire sits in. Let's back up just a little bit. Now if I run an electricity through that coil of magnet wire, it'll either come up, that's why we have a diaphragm so it doesn't come out, or it could go down. Let's hook this up here. That's up, and this is down. Now I'm going to show you something. You guys who like to listen to real loud music, I'm going to put this cup of water on here. And we're going to use a 9-volt battery, which isn't excessive. And I'm going to put my hand here so I don't get a mess, okay? That's about 3/4 of a pound of water that it just lifted. Well, there we go. So when you listen to loud music, what you're listening to is this cone creating a shock wave through the air that's coming to your ear. Be nice to your ears. You want to keep them the rest of your life. Okay, so you saw how this was built. Here's another one just like it. And again, because it was old, this outer ring, this diaphragm wore out, which is why I got them. My friend didn't need them anymore, and he knew I liked this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do here is repeat some of the actions. Here's up, here's down, down. And next I'm going to connect it to about 2.5 volts, plus minus 60 times a second. Let's disconnect, let's take these off. And hum out of that. There we go. There's that 60 cycle hum. Okay. Higher voltage, it's really loud. And now let's use it for what it's supposed to be used for. We're going to connect it to the output of this radio. You move out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Here's the radio. And connect that in there.
Somehow curdles into arrogance.
In his years in the Senate, so much of what he was doing in running the Judiciary Committee or head of the Foreign Affairs Committee was very often...
Now these are called woofers. They're designed to reproduce really good low tones, low frequencies. This would be more like a mid-range. Let's hook it up.
And this utterly different sense of style and approach. Barack Obama was quieter, more disciplined,
and these are called tweeters for the real high frequencies.
Somebody who worked very closely with both of them said to me, the reason it worked was that each one thought he was the mentor.
Okay. Now, it's not just these speakers that operate with that technology. That is a coil of wire with a permanent magnet, stationary permanent magnet. We have earphones. We'll go to let's zoom in on here. And this is an earphone, okay? And I've got its buddy here, not in nearly as good a shape. First, I want to show you that there's a magnet in there. Okay, so there's a magnet in there. And then the other thing I want to show you, this will be a little trickier. My hands will be in the way. We're going to really zoom in on this. Can you see that magnet wire? You see the magnet wire? That magnet wire goes in that little slot there. I'll put that back in there. And there we have a little tiny speaker, which is used in the microphones. I mean in the earphones. Okay, so that does it for session 5. In session 6, we are going to explore the behavior of electrons in a magnetic field when they're not in a wire, where they're just out in free space. And we're going to see how they behave. See you then.